Uh, so we'll get started. First, I'll just give you some housekeeping details. So one thing is I didn't record last night's session, last morning's session. Sorry about that. I'm just a bummer. It's it's difficult for me to remember to do that every time. So
It's
there have been 3-4 days where I've stopped that. So the reason I bring it up is if anybody sees the recording not on, because you'll see this red dot which confirms to you on the left that it's being recorded. So
Yep.
do prompt and then we'll get it, because at least if not for others, it's a good reference just for ourselves. And things like today, Neha missed out. She wants to catch up. So it might be useful for people who are not able to join on a particular day. So let's make some
So
effort and
saw
get that.
saw the YouTube recording.
Oh, did you? The beams. Okay, good. Yeah.
Very nice. So we miss that if you don't record.
Yeah, that's what. So it's worth it. I realized. So it's worth it. Let's do it. So I'll tell you what we are trying to do. So Kama, you're on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, what we did was the trust has given us 4 different PDFs. Now we have 1 mega PDF. It's called now. I'll just show you on files. So by the way, I just was able to map this. So people have, I'll probably put out instructions on how to do that. You can, 1 second. So do you see my Windows Explorer?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically I've mapped our Teams folder right here. So what you see there is what you see here. So Godspeak study group and then general, and then you have the whole thing. So I'll send out an instruction for both Windows and Mac so that it's easier than struggling, because everybody hates the Teams interface, including me. Okay, so I realized this was possible, so I think we should all do it. So what I've done here is under discourses, firstly, I created a combined file. If you can see it here, there's a discourses 7th edition combined. Okay. And then what we did was, if you recollect, some of you may recollect that we wanted to. Yeah, combined is basically, if you look at the folder here, they had an intro file, then part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. So given that we are not going to do it in sequence, we might have a lot of back and forth. So I just combined it to one file. So all 5 parts, that is 5 independent files, are now into one large 10 MB file. Okay, so it's just a housekeeping task, nothing significant. I've just kept the same thing as it is. Now let's go to the next thing that we did. So if you recollect, Kama wanted to group this by themes of learning more than anything. So the themes he chose was this. So God and Maya, avatars and perfect masters, reincarnation and karma, spirit and matter, yoga and meditation, consciousness and samskaras, and love and ego, right? So it's a
nice, very
reorganization.
nice.
So it's a reorganization of the content and discourses in a way where we can relate to, and not conforming to the table of contents and the sequence that's in the book, right? Please note, it's not the same. So what we did to make it easy for all of us on this group, I've created this table, which again is on the files. So this is a chapter number. By the way, there are no chapter numbers in the TOC. I'll show you. So you can do all this later and get familiar with it. Discourse is going to be as intense and it's also a broader subject. So we might be doing a lot of offline stuff. So I'm just getting everybody comfortable with this. So if you look at the contents, this is the contents I have in the Excel, but the contents don't have a chapter number. It doesn't have 1, 2, 3. So first thing we did was put a chapter number, just so that it's easier to refer. And we put the parts as 0.1 like this, right? 28.1, 28.2, 28.3. Like that, we go to 49. There's a little sleight of hand. there's one more chapter, which is the information centers, which is the last point, which would have been chapter 50 in the book. But then the sleight of hand is to ensure that we have 7 squares to keep the Baba's favorite number in mind. So 49 chapters, which is including the index. This is the page number as per the physical book, right? This is the page number on paper, and this is the page number on PDF. And then these are the references for ourselves, which is the part and the group title. So it's important for us.
The PDF is your consolidated PDF, not the original digital PDF.
Yeah, so don't refer the trust copies, refer what's here, which is one file, which makes it easier. So if you look at this, I have 454 pages in all, and in the Excel, it goes all the way to the last chapter, starting 445. There are 10 pages of index. I request everybody to go on mute. Yeah. So
Karthik, Ashok wants to come in. He has sent a message.
I already let him in.
Okay.
Is he there?
I'm seeing it late, I think.
No, he's not knocking. Maybe. I let somebody in now, just a few seconds back.
It is in the post.
Yeah, maybe he'll come back.
Yeah,
Can you just text him?
Using my.
Okay.
Yeah, using my iPad, I just got in again. So.
Okay. So that's whom I let in. I didn't see who it was. Can you just post Mama to let him try again, because it didn't prompt yet. So any questions at this stage? Is everybody comfortable with this?
There is also a note called introduction, which I have written.
Yes, we'll read that together.
Yeah.
Kama, I request you to read it. So I think you put it in...
Karthik, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
I printed the 4 different PDF copies, which I think this course is at 4 PDF, right?
Yes.
And I have 430 pages in print, including the glossary index at the back. So,
are you sure you printed the 7th edition? Because
yes, it is 7th edition.
This is the 7th edition. Okay, so in my PDF, if you look at it, I have 454. Maybe we'll reconcile one-on-one on the gaps, if any. But I spent a lot of time confirming that I'm not losing a page when I consolidated. And if you look at the digital copy, it ends at 432 for information centers. And if I go to 454,
yeah, correct.
It is 433. No.
Yes, that's where I stopped printing.
Yeah. So that's because of the 10 additional uncounted pages. So that's fine. You're fine already.
Okay. So in your index, which
so if you're using, so if you're using the physical copy, which is what you're doing because you printed it, just use column C.
C, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Anyway, I'll be showing it on screen as well every time we do, so you should be fine.
So hosted the Excel also?
Yes, it is hosted on the same discourses folder. So if you go to God Speaks, let me do it on Teams. Maybe you're wondering this is different. We should be able to. Yeah. So with that housekeeping out of the way, any other questions before we go?
Can the font be made a little bigger? Okay, that of course will be when you start reading, I guess.
Yes. I'll make sure it's comfortable to all. I will do that. Okay. So with that out of the way, we just thought that we'll do the introduction to the 7th edition once more, because we don't have the recording of yesterday, and also it might just be 2 pages. So we'll start with that. Okay. Kama, anything else to add? Oh no, the introduction. You have to read the introduction.
No need.
Why don't you do it? You sure?
Because I think you have explained. You have explained everything. It's posted there. They can read it if there's any question.
Okay, so this is what Kama put out. Can you see the screen now? It's on my screen now.
Can it be made a little bigger?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, perfect. That's good.
Right. So basically, he's written introduction, which is, I think, what I already covered, though I had not read this in detail. So we'll anyway leave this also. Hi.
Could he actually read it? It'll put things in perspective.
Very good idea. Let me do it. So let's start with this. In our ongoing discussion on discourses, we've divided the 70 chapters into 7 parts based on the 7 phases of evolution and involution from God Speaks. Our reading will be based on these 7 parts, which are detailed in the Excel spreadsheet. We will introduce the format during our talk in the morning. God Speaks helps us in understanding who is God, what is God, and why God realization. Discourses is about the how part. How do we use the process discussed in the discourses to travel this very individual, unique, spiritual, and material journey on planet Earth, especially during our daily 16 hours of waking state of consciousness, the 16-8 formula. So our recommendation is that apart from our daily discussion, aspirants should read the relevant chapters on their own, make notes, have queries which can then be discussed and then included in our FAQs for all concerned. We will also be having quiz questions for each of the 7 parts, so that we will each develop our own framework in understanding the discourses. Yeah, this is an important point. So we were talking about it yesterday. So to confirm that we are in the right direction, we'll have a very simple quiz and we'll decide the format, whether it's just on the call or we just do it with a 2-day window. You just can do it in your at your free time. We'll figure that out. But at the end of each part, we'll kind of confirm understanding with that quiz, which might be helpful. The following is mentioned in the introduction to the 7th edition, which is self-explanatory. One of the great wonders of contact with Meher Baba is acceptance. Charles Purdom, in his book, The God Man, notes that he invites people to look at themselves, to accept their egoistic selves, not as good or bad, clever or stupid, successful or unsuccessful, but as illusions of their true selves, and to cease to identify themselves with the illusion. The history of man's search for his soul has produced few works that lay out in minute detail the techniques for the soul's discovery. Meher Baba's discourses are a major contribution to that small body of literature. This will again repeat when we do the intro. I remember this was there yesterday. In this work, given to his close disciples during 30s and 40s, he describes the means for incorporating daily life into spiritual ongoing. He also outlines the structure of creation and clarifies the relationship of the aspirant to the avatar and the master. In his later classic work, God Speaks, Meher Baba describes in detail the states of God, his will to know his divinity consciously, and the consequent role of creation. The discourses, on the other hand, are practical guides to daily life for those slowly finding their way back to oneness after having developed consciousness through the deeps of evolution. The discourses not only provide descriptions of the spiritual path and its disciplines, but also shed powerful light on the goal for the wayfarer who aspires to attain it. The reader will discover that they in no way provide a cut and dried formula for spiritual development. Rather, they are a reminder of the continuous need for the love of God and surrender to Him. Love for God is the guiding force along the path, and it is love for and surrender to God that eventually attains the goal by the grace of a perfect master. Such a master is the knowing guide who has already traversed the path and experienced the truth, and who provides the infinite patience, the security, and the steady pace that can lead the disciple to the goal. So finally, a word from the editor. Feel free to make suggestions to make this wonderful discussion into an inspiring, practical, and experiential, spiritual and material journey for all humanity. I'll send you my bank account number now that you mentioned material journey. Okay. So
I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
To cease to identify themselves with the illusion, that's a very powerful, aspect about the whole thing. So That's if somebody could elaborate on it or explain it, because that's a very, very important aspect of our practical journey. And I think in this there are a lot of key words: love, surrender, and I think Meher Baba had also said that love and truth are the two things which you should actually practice or aspire.
True. So we'll again refer that last paragraph. I think will again come in intro. So we'll pause and deliberate on it in a few minutes.
Fine. Good enough. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So now I'm opening the combined PDF, and we start with introduction to the 7th edition, which I need not do the scrolling. I can type the page number now that I did the hard work. Hey, there's some funny pieces here, right? The Kama, do you notice this? This is not in the PDF, right? The
overwriting. Don't worry about it. Yeah, this is a bit of overwriting. Yeah.
No, that shouldn't cause a problem. So let me try to recreate this combined file without this issue, if required. I'll try to fix this. I just noticed this.
Even in the PDF, original PDF also, there are a few things like that. But this appears different.
Yeah, this surely is more pronounced, because yesterday I remember reading this and this was not so bad. So I'll try to figure out what the technical issue is. Basically, I used another software to merge, so maybe that's what caused it.
I have a problem. I think maybe it's the font, the type of font sometimes.
Yes, it's Times New Roman.
If the font right, then the overwriting might be all right.
Correct. It's a very simple font. It's Times New Roman. So I'm surprised. Anyway, let me figure that out. I'll leave that to me for a day. So I'll just start again with the introduction to the 7th edition. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Meherwan Shehryar Irani was born in Pune, India on 25th February 1894. His parents, Shehryar and Shreen, were Zoroastrians of Persian descent. His father, Shehryar, was a genuine seeker of God. Meherwan attended St. Vincent High School. He was a lively and happy boy who excelled in both studies and sports and was not overly interested in spirituality. However, a school friend once gave Meherwan a booklet on the life of Buddha, and years later, when he reminisces about the incident, he remarked, "I opened the book to the place that told about the second coming of the Buddha as Maitreya, the Lord of Mercy. And I realized all of a sudden, I am that actually, and I felt it deep within me. Then I totally forgot about it, and years passed by." One day in May 1913, while studying at Deccan College in Pune, he cycled past the venerable Muslim woman Hazrat Baba Jan, one of the 5 perfect masters of the time. She beckoned him to her and kissed him on the forehead, subsequently revealing to him his true state as the Avatar, the total manifestation of God in human form. At first, Meherwan was dazed, but gradually, over a period of months, the focus of his consciousness returned sufficiently to his surroundings to lead him to the perfect master, Sai Baba of Shirdi, who in turn guided him to another of the perfect masters, Upasni Maharaj, a Hindu in Sakori. Sai Baba did not disclose his religion. The 2 remaining perfect masters of the period were the Muslim Tajuddin Baba and the Hindu Narayan Maharaj. For 7 years, Upasni Maharaj integrated Meherwan's God consciousness with consciousness of the gross world, establishing him in his role as the avatar of the age. This avataric mission started its outward expression in 1921 with the gathering together of his first disciples, who gave him the name Meher Baba, which means compassionate father. Requesting all of you to go on mute. There's one of the mics that are still on. After months of intensive work with these disciples and travel in India, including present-day Pakistan and Iran, Meher Baba and his followers took residence in 1923 in a vacant World War I military camp near Ahmednagar, India. This became known as Meherabad. Here, He instituted a number of projects such as a free hospital and dispensary, shelters for the poor and the mad, and a free school for boys of all religions where spiritual training was stressed. In the school, no caste lines were observed, as the high and the low mingled in common fellowship forged by love of the master. To all, Meher Baba offered regular instruction in moral discipline, spiritual understanding, selfless service, and above all, love of God. All these activities moved at high speed despite Meher Baba's silence, which he commenced with little advance warning on the 10th of July 1925. When asked previous to his start of his silence how he would continue to give discourses and teachings to his followers, he countered, "I come not to teach, but to awaken." In later years, during one of his visits to the West, his comments were equally profound and thought-provoking. Things that are real are given and received in silence. And again, if my silence cannot be heard, of what avail words? After also giving up writing in 1927, except for his signature, he communicated by pointing to letters on an alphabet board. But this too was given up in 1954. Subsequently, he conversed through his own unique system of hand gestures. However, his discourses and his book, God Speaks, were dictated before giving up the alphabet board. During the early 1930s, Meher Baba's travels began to reach into Europe and then on to America. Contacting hundreds on both continents, his name rapidly became known to those deeply and sincerely interested in the spiritual life. Only some of these were permitted to come later to India in small groups. Their visits ranged generally from weeks to years, but just before World War II, all but a handful were asked to return to the West. Meher Baba visited the West again in 1952, 1956, and 1958. Australia was also visited during the last two tours. After this, he did not travel outside of India, and he allowed Westerners to visit him in India only on rare occasions. One of these rare occasions was the Great East-West Gathering of November 1962. At his invitation, thousands of his devotees from all over the world converged on Pune. For almost a week, Meher Baba gave unstintingly of himself. The activities were as varied as the assemblage. Brief discourses, group meetings, personal interviews, songs, and prayers in praise of God. An open day of public darshan attended by multitudes surging from the city to pay homage to the Master and receive his blessings. The world's literature contains many references to the need for transfusions between East and West. Here was a rich confluence in which mutual respect, affection, and unity in praise of the beloved avatar bridged vast differences in culture and tradition. Persistent throughout decades of Meher Baba's avataric activities was his seeking out and contacting God-intoxicated souls, or musts, pronounced musts. Through Dr. William Donkin's book, The Wayfarers, Meher Baba has described most clearly the states of divine intoxication. The musts are those who have lost contact with the external world through intense absorption in their love of God, rather than through breakdown and insanity. Especially in the 1940s, Meher Baba contacted hundreds of these God-intoxicated souls throughout the subcontinent of India, often tending personally to their daily needs, giving each what only he knew they needed in their journey to God. Meher Baba also personally served the poor, the mentally ill, and physically handicapped, and showed a special concern for those stricken by leprosy. With infinite care and love, he washed their feet, bowed his forehead to the often twisted stumps on which they hobbled, and sent them on their way with small gifts and renewed hope. They are like beautiful birds in ugly cages, he conveyed on one such occasion. Of all the tasks I have to perform, this touches me most deeply. While traveling widely and contacting many thousands of people, Meher Baba continued to emphasize that he had not come to teach or lay down new precepts. He stressed repeatedly the truth had been revealed by the great ones of the past, and that the present task for humanity is to realize the truth embodied in their teachings. Meher Baba's avataric work is therefore the awakening of humanity to that realization through his age-old message of love. His life is a gauge against which man can measure what he is and what he may become. So again, there is a reference to his age-old message of love to pick up on Ashok's question. So this has appeared even in God Speaks, the love and the divine love. And there is a whole part that's dedicated in discourses, part as defined by us, and of course, multiple chapters on love. So I would suggest that we wait for that as we uncover that and discuss in greater detail at that time. So I'll continue. In essence,
Karthik, I was just mentioning that these are the two words which come again and again. That's about
yes, sure, noted. In essence, however, one does not know how Meher Baba achieved and continues to elicit unexpected responses from those drawn to him. So this is the repetition from what we read earlier. I'll just go ahead. All that the individual senses is a powerful force sweeping through the snarls of life, energizing and freeing the inner being in a manner that is intuitively trusted. One of the great wonders of contact with Meher Baba is acceptance. Charles Perdome, in his book, The God-Man, notes that he invites people to look at themselves, to accept their egoistic selves, not as good or bad, clever or stupid, successful or unsuccessful, but as illusions of their true selves, and to cease to identify themselves with the illusion. The history of man's search for his soul has produced few works that lay out in minute detail the techniques for the soul's discovery. Meher Baba's discourses are a major contribution to that small body of literature. In this work, given to his close disciples during the 1930s and early 1940s, he describes the means for incorporating daily life into one's spiritual ongoing. So again, I point out the play of words. He describes the means for incorporating daily life into one's spiritual ongoing. He also outlines the structure of creation and clarifies the relationship of the aspirant to the avatar and the master. In his later classic work, God Speaks, Meher Baba describes in detail the states of God, his will to know his divinity consciously, and the consequent role of creation. The discourses, on the other hand, are practical guides to daily life for those slowly finding their way back to oneness after having developed consciousness through the deeps of evolution. The discourses not only provide descriptions of the spiritual path and its disciplines, but also shed powerful light on the goal for the wayfarer who aspires to attain it. The reader will discover that they in no way provide a cut and dried formula for spiritual development. Rather, they are a reminder of the continuous need for love of God and surrender to Him. Love for God is a guiding force along the path, and it is love for and surrender to God that eventually attains the goal by the grace of a perfect master. Such a master is the knowing guide who has already traversed the path and experienced the truth, and who provides the infinite patience, the security, and the steady pace that can lead the disciple to the goal. As described in detail in the discourse, The Avatar, it is the periodic manifestation of God as the Avatar, the God-man, the Messiah, the Buddha, the Christ, the Rasul, that brings about the spiritual rebirth of humanity. For it is the Avatar who realizes a spiritual dispensation that assumes unlimited dimensions. Independent of the grace of the perfect master, the grace of the Avatar flows to all alike, at every step towards the truth, provided there is intense love and longing for God. It is not just during the period of his physical presence that the guidance and grace of the avatar are available. He is not only for contemporary humanity during his advent, but for posterity as well. His grace and his guidance toward the truth are constantly accessible and available to one and all, in all instances, to attain the goal and make the final leap from the realms of duality to the abiding experience of the oneness of reality. It is necessary to have the grace of a living perfect master or of the avatar who is the eternal living perfect master. So I think yesterday we discussed this, if you recollect. So eternal living perfect master is the reference to the avatar who comes again and again. And second word that Kama used yesterday was the supreme perfect master. So supreme perfect master is the avatar, if I remember right.
And also one more thing, the eternal living perfect master also implies whether the avatar is in human form or in the impersonal form, formless, is always available 24/7, 365 days throughout eternity. And that is why when we look at all the different perfect masters like Tukaram, Namdev, Eknath Maharaj, Meera, so on and so forth, they all focused on the avatar and they became self-realized.
I have an observation, see, the discourses were introduced first 1930s and 1940s, and then thereafter God speaks. So probably Baba wanted us to know sort of a roadmap or a practical handbook on the spiritual journey before we can even go ahead. I think that was something came to my mind.
No doubt. I think this was the first seminal work which got him. Got very widespread attention in the spiritual world and academic world. So later on came God Speaks. So we are doing it in reverse order. So that's why the parts make sense.
That's okay.
So the parts are organized in a way where our absorption will be easier. So we'll learn more about God and Avatar first, and then go through the other things. That's what we have done.
No.
Right?
That's perfectly okay. I'm just saying that this is something came to my mind. And in fact, God Speaks is also referred as a text in Harvard in one of the religious programs.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of that. Good. I'll continue.
And one more thing, Baba also emphasized that any individual born in any religion, in what I call any of the spiritual operating system, Buddhism or Christianity, if they focus just on the avatar, that's good enough. They don't have to go spiritual shopping looking for gurus and babas, because the teacher comes when the student is ready. So you don't have to look for a guru. If you just focus on the avatar and his attributes, that's good enough. It's a good start.
Correct.
Yeah, Kama, I think we got the
phrase he has given.
Baba. Sorry.
Kama has given a good phrase, spiritual operating system.
Save our souls.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like springtime of creation, right? So he keeps using that for the avataric phase. So I like that expression of Baba's as well. So I'll continue. Meher Baba's silence of 44 years remained unbroken when he passed away on 31st January 1969. His last years were marked by great physical suffering due to two severe auto accidents. The first occurred near Prague, Oklahoma, while traveling across the United States in 1952. The second occurred in India near Satara in late 1956. In both accidents, Meher Baba sustained serious injuries that made walking, even standing, extremely painful and difficult thereafter. Such physical pain is an outward manifestation of the intense inner suffering the avatar takes on for the sake of humanity each time he comes in our midst. His final years were largely spent in close seclusion and in intense and exhausting preoccupation with his universal work. In mid-1968, Meher Baba announced that his work had been completed to his 100% satisfaction. The same period also witnessed the explosive growth in the numbers of those who looked to him for the key to meaning in life. At his passing, thousands came for a last glimpse and to pay homage to the well-loved form as it lay for 7 days in the tomb at Mehrabad before his interment there. More thousands from all over the world attended the April to June 1969 Darshan program in Pune, which he had arranged months before his passing, and they deeply felt his love and presence in their hearts. Today, Meher Baba's love spreads out in ever-widening circles, drawing people from all corners of the world, from all walks of life, and from all religions to search for truth under his loving guidance. Although hundreds of Meher Baba groups function throughout the world, in the West, he personally established two major centers, Meher Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, USA, and Avatar's Abode in Woombye, Queensland, Australia. Each year, hundreds of seekers visit these centers and thousands more make pilgrimages to Avatar Meher Baba's tomb shrine, as well as the long-time residence of his later years at Mehrazad, also at Ahmednagar, India. This is written by Don Stevens. So we'll continue on to... Yeah?
I have a very mundane question, pardon me.
Sure.
You know, Discourses is said to give you a guide to lead this life and elevate on your spiritual journey. But you know, you have needs in this life, like, you know, providing for the family, this and that. My question is, how did Baba fund all these projects? And that it keeps on coming to my mind, you know, he traveled so much, he gave so much. I mean, of course, he's an avatar, it must be easy, but still, in real terms, how did he manage it?
So I don't have a historical perspective with facts. If anybody else can volunteer, they can. I'll just tell you what I have figured. So I think over the period of time, the Mandali and the close followers that he drew to himself gave him everything. And if you read the trust deed, he offered to take care of their families in return, and which happens to date, by the way. So it's a trust deed that Baba has personally drafted, and he has personally signed, obviously, as the settler of the trust. But then the theme, the concept was, he drew a lot of people, some of them wealthy as well, significantly wealthy, and they gave Baba everything, right? And that was the precondition, and they gave it selflessly and with love. And those funds were used, but then he was always, he was never in rolling in the stuff, right? So it was always hand to mouth, and of course we know what went through in New Life. So we will never understand fully what he tried to do and what he achieved. It's not up to us mortals to even comprehend that. But I think this is my brief understanding. Anybody else can also come in.
Yeah, I'd like to say that if you go to Myrtle Beach, it's a very, very large property, and it's very, very expensive property. So that property was donated to him by Elizabeth. I might be getting the name wrong.
You're right. Elizabeth's father. Elizabeth's father, yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth's father. And so most of the property which he got, you know, which he worked for, which we worked on, was donated by somebody or the other. And most things were donations from the heart. He generally never touched money in his life. And you know, but people voluntarily came because he would work on everybody's mind and heart, so he knew exactly who is going to so it was all you know, it came very naturally. Even the Nagar property, and you know, everyday food and all that was all by, you know, somebody was always sponsoring it from his heart without him even having to ask for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much.
And Baba also lived very, very, very frugally.
Frugally. Yeah, yeah.
They
He
went
hardly
only in
ate,
third
yeah.
class trains, second class trains, and he was very particular about each and every amount. The accounting
Expenditure.
was very, very, detailed. So
Very, very
every pie
meticulous.
was accounted for.
Yes.
So actually, I look at Baba as like not only as the greatest scientist, but also as a way how one should live our material life in perfection, in simplicity. And that is the beauty about Baba's life. He was not like a guy sitting on a chair and giving gyan. Like this guy was what I call action speaks louder than words, and Baba personified that.
Yeah, just
Thank
Yep.
to
you.
absolutely very well put, Kama. Just I'll add
No,
two
but
things to that.
when
Yeah, go
he
ahead, Samira.
lived in Pune, when he lived in Pune in that palace, and if you see Myrtle Beach, it's extremely beautiful and extravagant. So Baba, you can't really say that. I mean, he was he. It is everything is him. So he resides in everything, whether it's frugal or something which is a palace or something that I mean, it doesn't really matter to him.
No, that's what I wanted to say. That's one of the 2 points I wanted to make. So the point was he's equally in absolute comfort in a three-piece suit as he
True.
is in a sadra, right?
Correct.
In the
Yes.
same way, he is as comfortable in a plush New York restaurant meeting his lovers, who are probably the richest of the world, and he is at home and absolutely at peace meeting lovers from rural India or wherever. So I think that's the big takeaway. He's been the symbol of perfection of how to be I mean, handle this with equanimity.
Yeah,
The
it's
second
basically
point,
detachment,
correct,
detachment to whatever you have.
correct.
Hmm.
The second thing on accounting, I'll extend it with an example. I believe he was so particular that if there was an error in reporting the accounts on expenditure and you ran short by a few paise, he was very particular that the answer was not to put the paise from the person, right? He was go figure out and tell me where that money went. So he was that meticulous, and I've seen some of the old Baba lovers put that to beautiful practice. Like I've seen it at work, and I'm sure the trust also does it very meticulously in the same way, right? With that, I think we'll jump back to the book.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Papa.
Yeah, Baba. So we'll go to 7 realities now. Is that what it is? Yes, we are doing part 0, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So 7 realities: existence, love. Again, request everybody to go back on mute on their devices. Existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following 7 realities. First one, the only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every infinite self. The only real love is the love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, which again is God. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, and even life itself are sacrificed. The only renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so-called bad, in saint and in so-called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. Number 6, the only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. 7th one, the only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. So, any inputs? I'm sure you have seen these 7 realities that have come multiple times in Baba literature. So it's summarized again in the beginning. So
I think for me, the way I have interpreted the 7 realities, I think it is something that we should read as part of our prayers every day, is that God comes in 2 forms. Personal form of God, which is the avatar, which is Meher Baba in human form, and also God in impersonal form, which is the formless. So the first 2 7 realities, which says the only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. So the way I interpret the finite self is the ego personality self that we have inside us, but actually there is the realized self. It exists side by side. And then the only real love is the love for the infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. So when we read God Speaks, again, I'm repeating what the definition of God here was, that God is existence, eternal, infinite, and all pervading. Since God is eternally infinite existence, it follows that there are infinite number of states of God, infinitely and eternally existing. But fundamentally, there are only 2 states of God, the original state and the final state. The original state we know is the divine vacuum before Vim, and the final state is when you have Manonash. So the challenge for me has always been, do I focus on the impersonal form of God or the personal form of God? So I think Baba is actually telling us both through God Speaks and discourses that we can focus on either, depending on our degree of consciousness. So this is my interpretation. Jai Baba.
And I think this aspect of real knowledge, and he mentions here, this knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand without any reward, expectation of reward. I think the present circumstances of which we are passing each other.
The audio is not so good.
Yes, Ashok, your audio is not clear. Sorry. Okay.
Kama, do you have any abbreviation or acronym for these 7? Make it easy to remember.
I will come to that.
Bit difficult for me to remember also.
I think we have to probably read it like poetry, just memorize it.
All right, okay, try.
Somebody wanted to come in. I'm not able to. Was it Tushar? I thought I heard.
Yeah. Can I see the page? Can I see the page? I see faces.
Yeah. So when people are talking, I just switch to page. Yeah. Okay. So do we go to the first one, part 1, or do you want to go to the last chapter, which was more appropriate from a time perspective.
asking?
Kama? Yeah, I'm asking Kama because he was suggesting.
Okay.
The travel, that one.
Yes, the travels. Yeah.
So what we have decided now in this particular discussion was, because of the current circumstances, because of the lockdown, and there are 3 chapters which are very relevant. So which we are going to read that first now. And it's in one of the parts called Spirit and Matter. So just for your information.
I wanted to speak and share. That is why I asked you to put this page.
Sure.
Yeah. See, can I read? I'm reading the second one.
Yeah, sure.
This
I
7
think these
realities.
points, sorry,
Yeah, please go ahead, whoever is speaking.
this is Samira. I was saying, I think all of these points are extremely important. So I think we should go into every point, because there's much more than what you can see in each point, if time permits.
Yes, they are very deceptively simple, but
I
very
agree.
profound.
No, please go ahead. I think we have to have etiquettes here. Otherwise, this will not work as people grow.
Exactly. So, Tushar, over to you.
Can I speak now without
Please.
interference?
Please.
Whatever I am saying is very important. Okay,
Sure.
the very important part, as Samira said, this is very important. The only real existence is that of one and only God, capital G, who is a self, capital S, in every finite small self. We've discussed this, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
God here is not outside. The God is within you. Self. The self means the Atma. God means the Atma here. And the self, small s, is the personality part which you have to shed. That's the sanskara part. Understand this very clearly. God is not outside there somewhere. It is all about you and within you and how you need to change. The moment sanskaras are gone, the self, the capital self, and the Paramatma, over soul, they are one. That is how it comes. This explanation is very necessary, otherwise you'll just go on reading words. I'm done.
Yes. Okay.
I have some comments posted. Please read.
Yes, I wanted to discuss that. So maybe we could.
I think only Mama has read it. I don't see anyone else.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of disconnect in this post and WhatsApp confusion. Guys, I am reiterating, anything that's important for our learning and discourses, let's do it on Teams in posts. I know some of you, Asma, Samira, Sanjay, Rahul, are new. I am happy to do a 1 hour familiarization session this afternoon, maybe 2:30 or 3:30, where everybody is welcome, where I'll again do a familiarization of Teams and get you guys comfortable so that you can see all these files and also post and interact in a collective, collaborative manner. Right? That's what he's referring to.
Nice.
So shall we do 3 o'clock, 3 to 4?
Yes,
if
fine.
everybody's
Yes,
okay.
fine.
So it's the same link. Please join at 3. Whoever is free and whoever wants to learn more. Rahul includes you. Right? So I was trying to reach you one-on-one, so we could do it all together so that it helps everybody.
I have seen a problem with browsing. I mentioned this earlier also. With regard to post, it simply skips certain of the posts when I scroll down rather.
No, I think it's just the speed.
Lengthy posts are a problem with Teams.
Yes, that I agree. Because it pans more than one screen. Yes, that's
can it be converted into a file and just give a link in the post?
Yeah, so you can use the wiki area and keep posting. In fact, whenever you post anything in the Wikipedia, it actually gives you a checkbox where you can post a link to it. So we can learn this at 3. When we get together at 3 today, we can spend some time trying to do some test posts which come back to the area without taking up too much space and all of that. Is that fine? Okay, so I know we are almost out of time, but let's try to read the travails. That's, I think,
page number
319 on the 298 on the physical book and 319 in my PDF. So so this we picked up especially because it's we are in a time which is very rare, and I thought we should read this first. When we read this together yesterday, I said, hey, we should start with this. Okay, so it's page 298, the travail of the New World Order. The world storm that has been gathering momentum is now having its greatest outburst, and in reaching its climax, it will work universal disaster. In the struggle for material well-being, all grievances have assumed fantastic proportions, and the previous differences of human interests have been so accentuated that they have precipitated distinctive conflict. Humanity has failed to solve its individual and social problems, and the evidence for this failure is very clear. The incapacity of people to deal with their problems constructively and creatively reveals a tragic deficiency in the right understanding of the basic nature of man and the true purpose of life. The world is witnessing an acute conflict between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. On the one hand, there are selfish persons who seek their happiness blindly through lust for power, unbridled greed, and unrelieved hatred. Ignorant of the real purpose of life, they have sunk to the lowest level of civilization. They bury their higher selves in the wreckage of crumbling forms that linger on from the dead past. Bound by material interests and limited conceptions, they are forgetful of their divine destiny. They have lost their way, and their hearts are torn by the ravages of hate and rancor. On the other hand, there are persons who unveil their inherent higher selves through the endurance of pain and deprivation through noble acts of bravery and self-sacrifice. The present war is teaching man to be brave, to be able to suffer, to understand, and to sacrifice. This was written first in 1941, editorial comment. So that's why he's talking about the present war, which is World War II, 1939 to 1945. The present war is teaching man to be brave, to be able to suffer, to understand, and to sacrifice. Yeah, Kama.
One just comment. I think when you look at this word phrase present war, we can use an analogy of the current condition. This coronavirus is also a kind of a war. So this chapter is very relevant.
No, actually, I am very intrigued by the choice of words, and all I can say is, if you read this one line, right, the world is witnessing an acute conflict between the forces of light and forces of darkness. All you need to do is Google this line with these three words, and then you will discover that these two phrases have caught the popular imagination of millions of people. Okay, New World Order has a different meaning in today's vocabulary. I don't know how much of you have come across this. Okay, and in the talk around the New World Order, and I know this is not at all relevant to spirituality, but it's the same forces of light and darkness that are referred to. So I see a great coincidence, and as Kama said, it's very uncertain and disastrous times that we live in, very much like a war, right? So I continue. The disease of selfishness in mankind will need a cure that is not only universal in its application, but drastic in nature. Selfishness is so deep-rooted that it can be eradicated only if it is attacked from all sides. Real peace and happiness will when there is a purging selfishness, when there is a purging of selfishness. Real peace and happiness will disappear instantaneously when there is a purging of selfishness. The peace and happiness that come from self-giving love are permanent. Even the worst sinners can become great saints if they have the courage and sincerity to invite a drastic and complete change of heart. With that, I stop here, which is today's date. And as I said, I invite all of you on the same link to just log in if you want to spend time to understand how it works from setting all the things up, looking at the files and the posts. The time shall be 3 p.m. 3 p.m. today.
Jai Baba.
Everything. Yeah.
Karthik, can you repeat the link on WhatsApp? Because what link I am using is few days behind, and it is difficult to scroll down and come there. I may lose it also. Yes.
Sure. And maybe one of the first things we'll do is we'll also bookmark that link. So when we start at 3 p.m., we'll bookmark that link on a shared screen, and I'll teach you that so that we can go to that easily every morning.
That is for laptop, it's okay.
From tomorrow. Yes.
For mobile, we need the...
You can bookmark it there as well.
That's what.
Yeah. We'll do
My
that.
request is email to me, please.
Sure, I will do that.
Okay.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Have a good day.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Good day, everyone.
We have reduced the community infections to 10 to 20 every day. Used to be much higher number. But we have a block of workers that come to Singapore to do for inspection and many other jobs from South Asia. And we have about 1 million of them living in Singapore from that community has significant infections. Every day we see 500, 600 new cases.